Welcome back to the Pause and Effect podcast. I'm Dr. Cara, your host, and my mission is to inform, inspire, and open up conversations for pet owners to have access to valuable information. Today, we have the pleasure of conversing with a remarkable individual who wears multiple hats with grace and resilience. Dr. Caity Venniker is not only an accomplished veterinarian, but also a talented author and a devoted mother and wife. Join me in welcoming Dr. Caity Venniker to the show as we delve into her journey through the worlds of veterinary medicine and literature. Caity, welcome to the Pause and Effect podcast. I'm so grateful that you've made the trip here. You haven't made the trip from Dubai, especially for me, but you happen to be here, don't you? That's
yes,
where you're
I'm
based.
back for a few weeks, which is so lovely, and thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
You're a very, very interesting person, very
Thank
multi-talented. And you started off not as a vet, not pursuing a veterinary career, but in something totally different.
Yes.
Take us through your journey.
So basically, I always loved writing, and I always loved animals, and I kind of always had the two sides between being a writer and being a vet. And the writing was actually winning at the end of high school. I did quite well in the English Olympiad. I was in the top 10, and I got a big scholarship to do journalism at Rhodes. And in the end, I ended up going not to Rhodes, but following the writing, and I did English and media at UCT. And then had a big change in direction at the end of that. My horse actually got injured, and I was helping kind of rehabilitate him a little bit. And it just really struck me how much I actually really wanted to do the veterinary work. So I was very lucky to have parents who were very supportive, and my dad, who's a doctor, and basically was allowed to go ahead and then start vet, which I did. And then I was a vet for quite a few years until I moved to Dubai, and found that adjustment quite difficult, with it being much more indoors, and the summers were really long, and basically came back to writing again and started entering some writing competitions, and that was how it kind of all started again.
So how do the two align now? So
they
I know you're doing
different.
a bit of both.
I'm doing
how do
a bit
you
of
juggle
both.
them?
The writing is always, it's very much kind of like the play and the free time and the creative outlet, which I love so much, but it's also quite a vulnerable space. So I find the vet is a really nice way of balancing it, because you can just go to work and do your job, and it's much more kind of structured, and, you can follow certain lines and protocols, and you will be doing a decent job as a vet. Whereas with writing, you can really lay your heart out there and feel quite vulnerable about it. So it's actually really nice to have the both. I find they work well together in a way.
I'm quite sort of in awe, because for me, obviously, we write clinical notes, and things are very practically set out and very factual, and I would love to. I'd love to read your clinical notes. I suspect they're very thorough. But what is the aim with your writing? What are you hoping to achieve?
So the aim was actually always to write novels. I've always been very interested in that, and but I started off writing short stories. I basically came across this wonderful website for international competitions, and it was just an eye-opener for me, because you obviously have a lot of these kind of competitions and a lot of support in the US and the UK, where there's a lot of that kind of thing, and I didn't realize how accessible it was really to South Africans and people around the world, because you could enter a competition pretty much every week of the year if you wanted to. And anyway, it caught my eye, and there was one competition in particular where it's actually stopped now. It ran for 10 years. I got it in the last year, and it was probably certainly the highest prize money, £10,000. And I just thought, I have to write a story and see what happens. And I kind of had given myself this time. And anyway, that was how it all started, because I won the competition, which was incredible. It was really just surreal, to be honest. And it was an amazing experience. And then I carried on, and I've won a couple more since then. And basically, it's just given me the confidence to think of myself as a writer. And even though I wanted to do fiction, I ended up, as the next step, joining a writing course, and the fiction had already started. So I ended up joining the non-fiction part of it, and ended up writing about veterinary stuff. And then the guy who runs the course, Mike Nicol, who's a brilliant author himself, he really encouraged me to keep going. So that's how this book that I'm currently working on kind of came into being. So yeah, it's not the long-term plan to always write nonfiction, but I do want to write this book for the vets.
So is this set in a tone for all pet owners to be able to relate to? Does this provide some insight to people?
It was very much started off more for pet owners than for vets, but I have since had such a great response from vets and so much support and so much interest, and I'm writing with them very much in mind as well. So I'm kind of trying to find the line between not being too technical, because I want everybody to be able to understand the stories, but also, just sharing vets' everyday experiences, because I think we have a lot of good stories to tell, and I think funny stories and heartbreaking stories. And I guess my two sort of inspirations for the book they're quite different. The one is James Heriot, who is obviously brilliant, and it's quite a lot older, his work, but he really is a good storyteller, and he kind of hits the nail on the head a lot. And then also Adam Kay, who worked for the NHS, released a book called This Is Going to Hurt, and it's got a much harsher kind of humor, and it's a lot drier, but I loved his book as well, and it's a lot more kind of punchy and modern, and so I'm trying to find the line between the two of them.
And obviously, when we're exposed to, like you say, there are so many different situations that you hear a lot of vets saying, "Oh, I could write a book."
Yes, that's it.
This is a great opportunity for someone to put the sort of day-to-day experiences.
Absolutely. And I'm a GP vet. I've done a bit of mixed practice work, so it's not that I'm certainly not writing from the position of, being above or superior to anyone else. I'm writing the everyday veterinary stories that come out and the situations we find ourselves in, which, I think medically we're often very well equipped for. Sometimes emotionally less so, because, we kind of find ourselves in a lot of different situations. And so that's what I'm writing about, stories for everyday vets.
And let's talk about that, because one of the things obviously I related with your history is that you did another degree before doing veterinary, which is, obviously similar to me,
yes.
Pursuing chemistry and then going, I still want to be a vet.
Yeah.
And then the ability to try and use the two.
Yes.
But I think for me, the difficulty is for people to get insight into what we do, to understand. I know that, but like all professions, you have the good, the great, and the people who ruin your really reputation.
Hard.
But having content out there like you're doing allows people to see the reality of being a vet.
I think that's so important.
How do you manage your identity? I mean, when people say, "Are you still a vet?" I mean, you're always going to be a vet.
Yes.
You've qualified as a vet. You're a phenomenal vet. How do you manage the fact that you have different roles? You're a mother, a wife.
I guess that's sort of part of it. I think sometimes, people expect vets to be, we're obviously very professional, and or we aim to be, and we have to have a certain amount of client-vet distance, because often we have to make decisions that have to be quite clinical and objective, such as, deciding whether to treat or even euthanize. We have to have that distance, the emotional distance as well. So it's very easy to be put in a box where you're just a vet. And I think part of the book for me has also just been about showing that, there's very much a three-dimensional element. And in the book, I've actually included like funny stories about my love life as a, student, and certain disasters. And I've kind of put that in for a humorous element, but very much also to show that with these cases coming through the door, there's already a whole lot going on in my life. And I think that's what sometimes people miss, how difficult it is, and that we're kind of trying our best. And especially as a young vet, I think, as you get more experienced, it's a lot easier to be in that role. But when you're a young vet and when you're a student, particularly in your final year, when you're having to be a doctor and you're actually kind of still a kid, there's quite a few funny stories about that, actually. And funnily enough, this is going a bit off topic, but the first chapter, and I'm very unsure about whether I should include this or not, but it's very attention-grabbing, and it was about this very kind of embarrassing, cringy scene where we had to do, in our final year, manual semen collection from a beagle. And how, as a professional vet, that would not really be such a big deal, but when you're actually just in your early 20s and you have a crowd of people watching you do this, just how embarrassing and how uncomfortable that situation can be, not for the beagle, but for, So that chapter is very much still, I'm unsure. Part of me, I've shown it to vets who absolutely love it. I've shown it to other people like my mom who's very unsure about it.
Oh, really?
But that's kind of, I'm trying to tread that line between showing people just how difficult it sometimes is to put on that professional kind of exterior, because we know it and we're very well trained, but we're still people underneath.
Hey there, fellow pet lovers. Today I am thrilled to share with you a new treat on the market, Plant Dog, the innovative plant-based treat that's been a welcome addition to my pet's routine. As you can imagine, as a veterinarian, I'm particularly fussy about what I feed my dogs. Finding a treat that ticks all of the boxes was a real game changer for me. What I love about Plant Dog is the versatility it offers. Picture this, I'm treating my 4 dogs, each with a unique taste and preferences. With Plant Dog's snappable design, I can effortlessly divide the treats into equal sections, ensuring each of them gets their fair share of crunchy, tasty goodness. And quickly, or the salivation starts. And let me tell you, their reaction is priceless. As soon as I call them from the gate these days, they come bounding over like it's the highlight of their day, which, let's be honest, it probably is. Plant Dog never fails to capture their attention and affection. Available in 3 flavors of bacon, burger, and barbecue chicken. But it's not just about the taste, it's about the quality too. Plant Dog's commitment to using organic, wholesome ingredients gives me peace of mind of knowing that I'm providing my pets with treats that are nutritious as well as they're delicious. With added omegas, antioxidants, and a complete absence of artificial additives and preservatives, it's a win-win for both pets and pet parents alike. The treat's outer is made from organic rosehip berry, picked in the mountains of Lesotho by over 10,000 women during a short 6-month picking period, with added organic flaxseed, organic rosemary, and organic yeast. And let's not forget about the packaging. It is beautifully packaged and conveniently allows me to grab a treat on the go without sacrificing freshness or flavor. So why not treat your dogs to the goodness of nature with Plant Dog? Trust me, they'll thank you for it. Stay tuned for more of my personal recommendations straight from one pet lover to another. Before we resume our conversation, let's address a vital aspect to pet care, your puppy's nutrition. Allow me to introduce you to a personal favorite, Ultra Pet's premium recipe for large breed puppies. I've relied on this for all my dogs and it's truly made a difference. This puppy food offers a balanced blend of nutrients, 30% protein, 15% fat, and 4% fiber, supporting your companion's growth and development. Featuring a delectable chicken and rice flavor, Ultra Pet caters for even the pickiest eaters. It's available in 2 pack sizes, a 8 kg and a 20 kg, and it's suitable for households of any size. What sets this puppy food apart is its meticulous formulation, developed by experts for a complete and balanced diet. It includes essential vitamins and minerals and prebiotics for a healthy digestive system and a robust immune system. With high-quality protein sources and essential fatty acids, this food promotes muscle development, healthy skin and coat, plus calcium and phosphorus strengthen bones and teeth. Ultra Pet has mastered the balance between nutrition and taste, making it a top choice for puppy food. Find it at your local pet store and give it to your companion for the best start. Your pet will thank you, and you'll appreciate Ultra Pet's commitment to optimal nutrition. Now, let's get back to our conversation. Absolutely. Well, I'm laughing because it's so relatable. I'm thinking back to...
It's a bad moment in my life.
But obviously in preparing or planning for this interview, you sent me a couple of extracts from your book. And you discuss, if you don't mind sharing,
Absolutely.
the spay, the first spay that you did. It is
spay.
so beautifully written. I urge anybody, if you've got it out there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's really
thank you. Yeah,
gave me absolute goosebumps because it takes you back to that place and
and
those feelings,
the nerves,
nerves, of a very technical procedure, which I don't think. Often people, when people are going around looking for the cheapest spay, where can where can I find the cheapest spay? And you go, this is a hysterectomy. This is a major procedure.
Huge surgery.
And I love the fact that you are exposing.
Yes, how we don't. It was scary, The first time you have an animal on the table and its life is really in your hands, and it's a lot. And of course, we are trained as much as we can be, but it's still always a learning process, and I think that's also what is important for people to realize, is we're all learning all the time, and we're just trying our best.
Absolutely, yeah. To humanize the
Yes,
vet
exactly.
and the mother.
Exactly. Exactly.
So in terms of for people wanting to pursue a veterinary career, I mean, you obviously still wanted to do it. No regrets doing it post your first degree.
Absolutely not.
Do you think it gave you some maturity? Do you think you took...
Yes, definitely. I think it did. I mean, it was a very different kind of path, and I learned a lot. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily a typical vet, but I love vets, and I think that, I believe in vets as being just great people. Honestly, they try so hard, and I find it so interesting because I'm obviously a talker and a writer, and I'm really into communication, and vets often are much more observant and less able to express themselves, but they are, just as a group, I just find them hugely inspiring in the work they do. So yeah, I think it's a wonderful degree. It's not an easy career choice. Obviously, we have a massively high suicide rate, which is relevant. I think it's so important to have hobbies outside of work and to have a balance. But it's a hugely rewarding field, and there's always so much to learn. And yeah, I certainly have no regrets at all.
And in terms of you spoke about, the rewards of what we do. I know that things have not always been easy for you in terms of your path of pursuing this book.
Yes, absolutely.
Are you happy to share that?
Absolutely, yeah. No, so basically the book, when I decided to change to veterinary, it was also because I kind of realized that when you're a writer, it's a very vulnerable place to be in. And for me, writing has always been such like an area of play, I suppose. And if you are being judged on that, it can feel very, very personal. So I was very lucky. I kind of had this stellar year where I just, kind of the first competition I entered, I won, and they flew me to the UK, and there was this amazing awards ceremony, and like Michael Morpurgo was the judge. It was just like mind-blowing, really. And I kind of kept up this amazing streak, and was lucky enough to join this writing class with Mike Nicol, who was very supportive, and it's been great. So I kind of been in this very comfortable place. And then what happened, I was about halfway through the book, and I got approached by a huge literary agency which has offices in New York and London, and it was totally out of the blue. She'd found me through the competitions I'd won. She'd found my Substack account, which is basically like an online writing platform where you can read people's work, and I'd started to kind of share extracts for the book. And she really was very keen, and she was wanting to kind of get in touch about signing me on, and it would have been a really life-changing thing. And even Mike he just thought it was like kind of the golden ticket. And then she ended up reading more of the book, and I don't know if she just spoke to somebody else in the agency, but anyway, she really changed her mind and came back with criticism, which I hadn't really asked for, and I found it, obviously it's always good to get feedback, but she kind of was quite harsh. She said, it's too South African, the humor's too harsh. She said, is it relevant? She compared it to that book, Educated, which I thought was quite unfair because I was never trying to be like a end of world trauma family, like that was an incredible book, but I was never trying to kind of be that. And she even said maybe you should stop and just go straight into fiction, and it was hard to get past that because I really felt that maybe what I was doing was really not relevant, and maybe I should just stop. But then I just thought, that was when it was really nice to have all the support of the vets in particular, because I felt like they really were supporting me, and they really want to read what I have to say because it's sharing what's real for them and the struggles they go through. And actually I thought, well, this book doesn't have to be for everyone, but there certainly are people who are very interested in it. And and I think so then I kind of just managed to move past it, but it was hard, I must say.
How did you?
I think it's sometimes when I find I'm a little bit stuck, I change mediums. So I kind of went back to poetry a little bit, reading it and writing it, and that always kind of loosens the pen again and gets me going again. And I did a little bit of editing of the work as well. I went back and read, and when I read it again and I enjoy it and I laugh at the things that have happened and enjoy, then I kind of feel like you just need to carry on. At the end of the day, you have to write. So that's just what I did.
Absolutely. And it's one person's opinion.
Yeah, it is. And it was actually quite an honor that she approached me in the first place. So
Absolutely.
it was very unexpected. And yeah, I'll take it at face value for what it is. And she had some points, so I'll try and take those and move forward.
Builds resilience.
Absolutely, yeah.
But obviously, advice for people who've gone through it, just
that's
work
it.
through the process.
It's just about having a thick skin, because there are, for all the wins, there's a lot of rejections as well. And you've just got to kind of, if you're wanting to do anything creative, whether it's writing or photography competitions or painting or whatever it is, because there's so many actually opportunities out there to enter these things. It's just about kind of remembering that at the end of the day, you've created something, and that's wonderful.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah,
It really
thanks.
is. So I liked, before we started this podcast, your comment about everybody can write. Because, and I'm laughing because, like, I obviously feel that everybody can write and maybe everybody can sing, but some people should not be singing. And some people should not be writing. Like, do you truly believe that? Do you think it's...
I believe that everybody has stories to tell that are worth hearing. I really do believe that. I think everybody, and whenever I'm trying to think of a story, I just wish I could turn to the person next to me in the queue in the spa or wherever I am and just say, what's your story? Because I know that everyone is walking around with a great story. And I wish I could just tap into them sometimes, because I think people are so interesting. Their lives are so interesting, the choices they make and what leads them to where they are. So I really do think that. And besides that, I think it's so therapeutic. Writing is just, it's like free therapy, you know. So I do believe that, yeah.
So like journaling is a
journaling,
real thing.
Absolutely,
and you should be encouraging your kids to do it at a young age.
Absolutely, I think anyone who can do it. And you know, they even have those books these days where they actually ask you questions to help you get into it, and they have like little prompts where they'll say, you know, whatever it was, what was the best thing that happened today. You know, I think for people who battle to start, those are great, because really it's such a release to be able to write.
And I mean, you've got a lot to write about, obviously, because veterinary, every vet will say, oh, you know, I could write a book.
There's a lot of content for vets.
There's a lot of content, you know, even within a day, the number of cases you see and the difference. And every case is different.
And every owner is different. I think that's been the eye-opener as well.
So when you're writing, are you basing, or is it a mixture? Are you basing some of your work on the people or the
definitely
the patients, or the experiences, the colleagues that you come across? Where is
very much all of them. I think what I learned from reading a bit of James Heriot was that so many of his stories were actually about the people more than the animals. And they're wonderful stories about clients. And, you know, he obviously came across a lot of characters. And I'd say mine is more animal focused than that. But there's definitely an interplay with what I find so interesting. And one of the best parts for me about writing this book is actually being able to record the really special interactions and dynamics that we get to witness every day as vets between pets and their owners. And, you know, those relationships are incredible. Owners will know before you can even pick something up clinically. How often has someone said something's not right with my animal, and you kind of can't see anything on the blood smear, you can't see, and yet within a day or two that animal's sick and it's come down with something, or you have to run quite extensive bloods before you actually pick up on anything, because they are so in tune. And besides even that, just the small bits of comfort that you see between, not just that the owner's giving to the animal, but that the animal's giving to the owner, and the kind of inversion of needs that you see, it's really quite humbling and special. And that's one of the things that I find amazing in work, and what I try to put across in the book as well.
And are there any subjects that you revisit a lot, or do you tend to try and
keep it quite broad. I try and make the book, it's the manuscript rather than the book, but I try and keep it quite humorous and light most of the time, but I do have to kind of include the really heartbreaking moments that we have. So there's kind of a balance between the two, but a lot of the time it's more lighthearted, kind of the scrapes you get into. And particularly what I found was when I was working with mixed practice, the large animals, as like a female, young, slight build, like that for me was what I found quite different to, say, James Heriot, who you always felt was really in control of the situation. And it's also, you know, he doesn't cover that side of the experience of being a female vet. So those kind of stories came out quite a lot. And there's quite a quite a varied lot of cases, because I've worked in different countries, so I've kind of covered quite a broad spectrum of working in South Africa and the UK and the Middle East. So yeah, I'd say it's all quite varied, really.
And gives real insight into
different kind of situations.
Different situations. I mean, the one extract was, and I can relate to it to a certain extent, but obviously I'm not an equine vet, or I never have sort of pursued an equine sort of interest other than having been a horse owner.
Yes.
And I'm laughing because your extract on going and managing the one horse in the stable.
Yes.
And I don't want to tell your story.
You're welcome to.
It was so amusing because, whether it's a difficult horse or a difficult dog or whatever, we can all relate, even as pet owners. I think
absolutely.
even the listeners can relate to those
and
sorts of
they're
things.
such characters. It's not that we don't like those patients. It's that we kind of have to figure out a way to manage them, because, when you've got a huge bolshy horse who's used to getting his own way and who really doesn't want an injection, you've got to kind of think out of the box.
And then you leave me going what happened? What happened? I'm dying to know what happened.
Yes.
I'm dying to see the published book at some point.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fascinating. So obviously I'm going to ask you to at some point read the extract I'm referring to now. The discussion obviously on euthanasia and an insight to people. So I think that it caught me rather off guard.
Yes.
You really are able to hit people's emotional pain points.
Felt a bit guilty about that sometimes.
It was beautiful, and we will
you.
definitely provide that for the listeners. I'd like you to read that
great,
for them. Yeah. But you, like you say, you manage to really bring people on a journey through
process.
The process of it. Is that a difficult thing for you to
write?
I
think that's...
Do you find those moments difficult? Is that part of your therapeutic sort of process in your...
I would say for me it's in a way a comfort, because there are however many animals we've put down in our careers, and there are many, I think they're always those ones that stick with you. Like, there's certain animals that I'll never forget, even if I only knew them for an hour before I put them down, or maybe I knew them for weeks, or maybe I knew them for longer. But there's certain animals that somehow you kind of think you're prepared, and that you've kind of reached a point of, I don't want to say professionalism, because it's the wrong word, but that you know your job, and you know what's best for the animal, and that you have your kind of guard up in a way that you protect your heart. But I just think animals don't know the rules, and sometimes one will come in that just really breaks your heart, and I've definitely had that experience, and I know that for as long as I live, I'll remember those animals. Not to say that I just forget all the others, but it's still very hard. Euthanasia is something that we have to do, and I don't think we get much better at coping with it, but it's never going to be easy. And for me, it's great to be able to share that for the vets who go through that all the time, and then have to kind of wipe their tears away or square their shoulders and go into the next puppy vaccination as if nothing's happened. And also just to remember the animals, particularly the ones that maybe were not treated as well as they should have been, and you wish not only you were able to maybe give them a good death, but you really regret not being able to give them a better life. And I think those are the ones that stick with you, and it's kind of good to remember them, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I would say on the whole it's therapy, but it's not easy to write either.
Absolutely. And I think often vets nowadays are being encouraged to seek sort of psychological regular help, and to be able to talk through those experiences. Obviously in your writing you're able to really take the next step, but
it's important.
I think it's very easy to pack those away, like you said, and
absolutely
you can't manage your day with tears in your eyes.
No, that's it. You kind of have to just carry on, and I think it is a hard job. That's it's a very real part of the job too. Mm-hmm. So I obviously had to kind of bring that in at points.
Mm. And you saying you absolutely love what you do, and I think I'm also in a really great position that we are able to do it and not have the pressures of, say, doing it from 7:30 till 7 o'clock at night. We are working under maybe better conditions than most vets, but I think people don't understand that
Yeah.
the day is not only very emotional but very long, and
Absolutely. And how often you take that home with you as well and worry about it. And, you know, I obviously speak to a lot of vets all the time, whether it's in person or afterwards, but you see vets all the time running through things they did. Did they miss something? Did they make a mistake? Have they done the right thing? This is what they did. And it's like they need the kind of just to say, you're doing okay. You're doing great. And they are. They just, it's hard, you know.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
So have your family, have your friends, the non-vets, have they enjoyed the insight that you provided them?
I think they really have. I've found it to be actually quite an amazing experience. I mean, I had a friend visiting in Dubai recently, and he said, you know, you don't know how many people know about your book and how they're talking about it and how they know who you are and how they're really rooting for you. And I found that really great. And yeah, I found people in general really enjoy it. My mom occasionally will say, did you have to swear? And my husband will say, did you have to include that story about that date? He's not that keen on that, but it is kind of part of, I guess the tone of the book is just trying to be quite sort of chatty and real as well. So on the whole, I mean, pretty much unanimously, I think I've had of all my Substack followers, I've got, I think, nearly 250, and I think I've only had one person unfollow of everyone who signed up, which has been great.
I've had lots more unfollowers than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge number, but I was pretty happy with those odds.
No, that's very, very good. So let's talk about Substack. After, I just want one more question.
Yes.
In terms of your husband saying, like, please don't include that story.
Yes.
How well can people actually get to know you?
I'd say pretty well.
Really?
I'd say
So
pretty well.
they
I'm
get
pretty
to
much
know
an
the-
open book. And I think when I look back, I mean, this is all, it's kind of spanning 10 years of my life, and from being a student and from being quite lost and trying to find my feet professionally at the same time as trying to kind of find love, I suppose, which is, you know, it's a long journey, but it's a noble one, I suppose. And also funny because there was Tinder happening at that stage, and I don't shy away from kind of sharing some of the experiences that happened. And yeah, so I would say people get to know me pretty well. And I think it kind of balances the book because you can't just write only about animals and cases all the time. There's kind of that background of what's going on as well.
And obviously now juggling parenthood and
Yes.
and you're expecting another little girl.
So yeah, it's been a journey.
That's why I started with, I'm in awe of what you're doing. You really are remarkable in terms of what you've
thank
achieved.
you.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Substack, because this is obviously it's a new term for me. This
So
is a
Substack is
platform.
basically an online writing platform, and you can get it as an app on your phone, which is free. And basically, you can be a paid subscriber. Some writers have paid subscriptions. I am just wanting to basically get followers for when I approach publishers. So mine is all free, and you get an email basically. And I have stopped for the last few months because I felt like I was maybe I couldn't share too many extracts from the book because I'm obviously wanting to still be appealing to publishers when that stage comes. So I stopped for a little while, but and I intend to go back to basically every 2 weeks sending out an email with a little extract and just letting people know how the book was going. That's how I formatted mine. And basically you just sign up with your email address and you will then receive a subscription letter with a little bit of writing. And there are so many writers on Substack, so you can download the app and kind of scroll through. I follow Margaret Atwood, who's hilarious and brilliant, and I just do the free portion of hers. I don't do the whole paid subscription, but it's just fascinating. People have amazing things to say, and you can find
It's another world.
It's another world, and there's just so much kind of conversation and interesting things going on it. So anyway, my Substack will obviously share the link. It would be great to get followers. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. It's just a way of sharing what you're doing, and for me, that's obviously really helpful because I'm wanting to hopefully send the manuscript completed out within the next sort of few months. And then if you have a following, it's really, really helpful. Publishers take that into account these days. It's not just the book, it's about
the interest.
Yeah, it's about the interest, and if you have people who will support you, basically.
To buy the book.
Yeah.
Which I certainly will. From what I've seen. You leave me hanging every time, each story. So, no, I think we're all dying to know what happens.
Yeah, hopefully it all goes well. We'll see.
And how they all sort of merge together. Because there is a story to it.
Yes.
These are not just little, moments in your life.
So it's kind of following the arc of kind of growing up as being a vet, yeah.
I love that. So yeah, we'll put a link in the thing. And right. I mean, obviously, in terms of you're still going to continue to enter competitions and
yes. So I'm still doing that, a little bit less than I was because I'm trying to kind of tie up things with the book. But basically, baby's due at the end of May, and I'm wanting to kind of hopefully have managed to finish. Books are usually about 60 to 80,000 words, and I have about 10,000 left to go, maybe a bit less. And then I need to edit, which I've already kind of started, kind of run through the whole book. And then I'm wanting to send it off and then hopefully have a blank page to start creating something else afterwards.
And any ideas of what's next?
I really want to write a novel. I still don't know exactly what it will be about, but that's kind of what I'm aiming for next. That's the next thing on the list.
That's wonderful. No, I'm in awe of what you're doing. I'm so grateful that there are opportunities for readers and listeners to get insight into what we're doing, our intentions, the good, the bad, and the reality of what it is to be a woman, to be a mom, to be a vet, to be multidimensional. And I'm very grateful that I've met you and that you've taken the time to come here today.
Thank you.
I think we're going to take an opportunity to hear a little extract. What a gift we're giving our listeners. So thank you for agreeing to that.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to brace myself.
So this is basically a piece of flash fiction. Flash fiction is something I came across in my writing journey of the last couple of years, where basically the word limit is small. So for this competition, it had to be under 300 words, and you're basically wanting to try and write something in prose where you tell a story, and it needs to kind of feel complete, but it's really just a snapshot into whatever's going on. So it's quite challenging in terms of that it has to be quite short, but it's also really fun to try and do. And I wanted to write something that I felt that only a vet could write. So I wrote this piece, and it was shortlisted in the Bath Flash Fiction competition in 2022 and was published in their anthology. So, here we go. It's called Journey Through an Old Dog's Vein. Hyacinth blue, cerulean, that's what I am. Beautiful, though I stay in the shadows, vampire-like. Just once, I have a few seconds in the sun. For a moment, I am a syringe full of sky, as I pass between dark bottle and dark vein. The cephalic vein usually, just before it slips into the crook of an elbow. I join the throng of erythrocytes, oxygen spent, returning to their heart. I fall in line beside them and give even the scurfiest mongrel a flush of blue blood, a transient taste of royalty. I make every dog a king. Axillary vein, subclavian, brachiocephalic, just words, I know the way. At last we enter the great beating house, ushered from room to room, and then spill into arteries, moving faster now. I spread my fingers, map out every limb. When I get to the brain, I start taking things. Consciousness first, from the back quarter. He gives it up easily, almost willingly, as if it's a relief to lay down his head. Then down to the brainstem for his breath. This takes longer, lungs reluctant, savoring the air. But I insist, and so does his heart, pushing me further, deeper. Finally, the frontal cortex, window seat of wonder. I wipe away the place where he hides his ball, lost now, with the dogs next door running along the fence. There's the park, the way the leaves scatter under his feet, sending up shivers of scent. The joy of puddles. It's nearly over. His heart slows, trembles. I keep pace, steadying, settling. Is he a dog now, or the body of a dog? There's just one more thing, the last thing he lets go. It's you, your smell, the sound of your voice, your fingers in his fur.
So beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful. So
it's a bit heart-wrenching.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely heart-wrenching. And I think anybody who's had a dog can relate.
Yeah, and it's just the story of, I guess, as a vet, you kind of, every time I felt, and I'm not particularly religious, but I am, I would say, spiritual, and I believe in more, and I kind of find that science takes you so far, and every time when you put a dog down, you kind of reach that point where science doesn't serve you anymore, and you kind of wonder these questions. And so I tried to write it very clinically, but at the same time, it's not a clinical situation. So there's a limitation, and I wanted to show that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. If I'm impacted, and as you said before, us vets are very good at putting the boundaries, but if I'm impacted by that, I'm sure our listeners are going to be too. Thank you. And thank you for being here today.
Absolute pleasure.
I wish you
wonderful.
all the
Thank
success you deserve.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to follow you on Substack. I'm going to put the link for the listeners to do the same.
Great.
Obviously,
Thank
any
you.
support is
That'll be really great.
so
Any
critical.
supporters will be so appreciated. Every single follower is a win, and hopefully when we get to that stage of sending off to publishers, it makes the difference. So thank you so much.
And a South African.
Yes, that's it.
We're very honoured.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Caity. As we conclude this insightful conversation with Dr. Caity, we've gained valuable insights into the delicate balance between pursuing a career in veterinary medicine, nurturing a family, and following one's passions for writing. Dr. Caity's journey embodies our podcast mission of informing, inspiring, and opening up conversations for pet owners. If you've been inspired by Dr. Caity's story and want to explore more of her work, be sure to follow her journey. Remember, your contributions and support can make a real impact. I'm Dr. Kari, your host, thanking Dr. Caity for sharing her experiences with us. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't hesitate to like, share, and leave me a review. Together, let's continue spreading positivity, compassion, and valuable information. Until next time, don't forget to give your pets a hug from me. Welcome back to Just for Pets. You're with Dr. Kara.
Hello, Doctor. It's Chanel the Persian. And, I can't seem to stop retching to get this hairball up.
Are you on a special diet?
Excuse me?
Hairball control food will really help. And maybe some Laxapet. And lucky for you, Just for Pets have a big range.
Well, how early can I get some?
Order today and we'll deliver pronto.
Wow, I feel better already.
Justforpets.co.za. Vet approved, pet adored. Get it all to your door.
We have an exciting announcement to make. We are looking for guest speakers who are passionate about the pet industry and sponsors to support future episodes. Are you an expert in pet training, nutrition, or behavior? Maybe you're a veterinarian with insights to share, a pet store owner with unique experiences, or a pet product inventor. We want to hear from you. The Pause and Effect podcast is a platform for industry professionals like you to showcase your knowledge, experiences, and stories. As a guest speaker on our podcast, you'll have the opportunity to share valuable information, engage with our audience, and have your voice heard in the pet community. Whether you want to discuss training techniques, emerging pet care trends, or the importance of mental stimulation for pets, we want to feature you and your expertise. So, if you're passionate about pets and have something to say, we invite you to join us on an upcoming episode of the Pause and Effect podcast. But wait, that's not all. The Pause and Effect podcast is also seeking sponsors to support our mission of educating and entertaining pet lovers worldwide. By becoming a sponsor, you'll gain exposure to our engaged audience and have your brand associated with the love and care that we have for our four-legged friends. If you own a pet-related business, offer pet products or services, or simply want to align your brand with our pet-loving community, we'd love to partner with you. As a sponsor, your brand will be featured prominently in our episodes and our social media channels. It is a great opportunity to showcase your offerings to a dedicated audience of pet enthusiasts. So whether you're an expert in the pet industry looking to share your knowledge, or a business seeking to reach a pet-loving audience, we want to hear from you. To apply as a guest or to inquire about becoming a sponsor of the Pause and Effect podcast, please contact me at drkara@pauseandeffect.co.za. Get in touch and let's discuss the various opportunities. Thank you for joining us today. We can't wait to welcome our future guest speakers and sponsors to the Pause and Effect podcast. Remember, every episode is an opportunity to celebrate our four-legged friends.